start to sit comfortably. Let yourself, if you need to sit up on blankets, by all means, grab a blanket. Yeah, you gotta have it coming out the right side, Donna. Donna's trying to fix the fan. It's okay. You're fine. So let yourself sit however feels good for your hips, and if you're in your chair, just be aware of getting your feet pretty parallel, and close your eyes, lengthen up through the top of your head. Let your shoulders release down away from your ears. And just accept your breaths now in and out through your nose. As you watch the breath coming in and going out, maybe feeling the breath coming into your belly. And then releasing your arms on out beside you here now. Let's inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come right down together in front of our hearts. And then we'll reverse. Inhale the hands right on up through the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms on back out and down. And let's inhale our arms forward, straight out from our shoulders, and flex our hands here. And then just let your hands turn over so the fingertips face down. And then rotate back up with the fingertips. So just a couple of times, letting yourselves come through with fingertips down, and then up, and then down, and then up. And then keep your hands flexed as you open the arms on out beside you here now. So if you need to bend your elbows a little bit, you'll really feel the undersides of the arms here. Soften the tops of the shoulders. And then let your arms release on down beside you. Take a nice inhale. And on your exhale, twist to your right, letting your left hand maybe come all the way to your right knee. That depends on you, where you bring that hand. You know that. Try not to lean back into that back hand if you're on the floor. Try to let yourself feel really supported with your spine. One more breath. And on the exhale, we'll come on back around through center and all the way around into the other direction. So again, just letting yourself lengthen up, feeling your sitting bones drawing down, feeling that twist in the middle of your back. Waking up your spine. One more inhale. And then on the exhale, come on back around into center again. And let's bring our arms behind us. So if you're on the floor, either just fingertips can touch the floor, or if you want to lean back flat onto your hands, you can. In your chair, you can just let the chair support you as you open up here through the chest. So bring your gaze where it feels good for your neck, whether it's forward or maybe you like to look up a little bit. That's totally up to you and your neck. Let yourself just be mindful about trying not to tense in your neck. Good, and then we'll come on forward into a little bit of a forward bend. So you all on the floor, if you prefer to switch your legs, do it. If you're in your chair, you can separate your feet if you'd like. Bring your elbows above your knees. If you're on the floor, you can go as far forward as you want. And of course, in your chair, if you want to bring your hands down towards between your feet, you can too. Again, try to let go through your neck. Try to let your head, if possible, release so that you're not lifting the chin up and tensing the back of your neck. And just be with your breath here. A couple of breaths, feeling the ribs expand there with your breath. Letting your face be soft. And then we're going to slowly slowly make our way on back up. So take your time. If you were cross-legged on the floor, take time to switch the cross of your legs. So you can stretch your legs out, of course, and recross. In your chair, bring your feet back underneath, hips distance apart. And we'll bring our arms on out beside us again here now. And let's inhale just the right arm all the way out and up overhead. And then come over into a side stretch. So if you're on the floor, your left hand can give you a little support there. Just breathing into that right side of the body. And then let yourself release on back up. We're going to switch arms. So just really let one arm, the right arm come down, the left arm come up. And then when you're ready, coming over into that side stretch, again, supporting how you need with that right hand. And breathing into that left side of the body here now, letting the ribs expand on that side when you inhale. And then we'll rise on back up and lower the arms on down. And let's bring our arms straight on out from our shoulders. And then just bend your elbows and let your hands come to where, like your tips of your middle fingers touch. And your hands are palms down. It's like you're putting your hands almost on a shelf right there in front of you. Let your shoulders melt down a little bit here. Good, and then softly start to bring your hands together here. And we're gonna circle our hands, trying to let the hands stay connected, even the backs of the hands when you circle through. And don't push really hard, but just feel your wrists here. Almost feel like you're kind of, I don't know, letting your wrists feel very lubricated as you move through your hands here. It feels easy. We're going to stop in reverse directions, so letting your hands circle the other way and just keeping that gentle connection. So you really feel your wrists and your hands. And then finishing off, let your hands come right back to be in front of your chest, in front of your heart. And now, interlace your fingers, bring your fingers down and clasp your hands. Really squeeze your palms together. And then start to press out into the heels of your hands so you turn your palms away from you in front of your chest. Really enjoy feeling here the arms, the shoulders, floating the arms higher and higher. Now this is up to you and your shoulders. You may want to stay just forward like this. You may want to continue up with the hands to be above your head. That's up to you. Feel the side body here, both sides of your body here so that you feel equal if you can. And then release the arms, let them come on down beside you here now. Good, and then shake out a little bit. And we're gonna come on around towards our hands and knees, so if you need to stretch your legs out a little bit first, do. And if you do not wanna be on your hands, don't be. Remember, you can come onto your forearms. Like if you have blocks here or a chair, you can get out of your hands, come onto your forearms to move through your cat-cow. So you're not stressing out your hands and your wrists. You can come to fists if you'd rather, or you can hold the edge of the seat of your chair, right? But just start to let the back feel really easy to move, right? Feeling that tailbone initiate as you roll through your spine. And go with your own breath, your own timing too. You may decide to stay in cat or cow for a couple of breaths without moving, because it feels really good to be in one of those poses and stay, or you might want to continuously move through the back. Good. And then complete the one you're on so that you can come back to a neutral spine, looking down between your hands. And then turn your head to look to the right and let your right arm come up so that it's parallel to the floor, right out from your shoulder. You can look there at your hand. Now, if you want to go higher with the hand and get a little more into your shoulders, you can, or you can stay right there. So you're, really feeling that left hand press into the surface it's on. And then we're going to come back down with the right hand. We're going to look to the left. We're going to float the left arm out. And then again, whether you go up higher or not is up to you and your shoulders. Really press into that right hand a little bit there. Feel your shoulders. And then release. Let that hand come on down. One more time, come on up into cat pose here. Let yourself round on up. And then come on back to neutral spine. And we're going to step our left foot forward and our right foot back and come into our first lunge. And you know how long of a stance you take in your lunge is up to you. If you feel like the right heel is not reaching directly behind your foot, you can check it by looking at it, and then let your head come into line with your spine if you can. And just enjoy feeling the back of that right leg there opening up. Drawing the shoulders down away from your ears and feeling your belly engage. Good. And we're going to switch legs, so it doesn't matter how you do that, whether you step backwards or forwards, whether you need to put knee or knees down, whatever works. And then again, once you find that alignment there in your lunge, how long you want to be. That front knee no farther forward than your ankle there, so draw your shoulders down, bring that back of your head in line with your spine if you can. Feel the belly engaging. Good. And we're going to switch legs again. And this time, if you want to engage a little more into your hips, try to press those feet away from each other, trying to imagine that you're making your mat longer with your feet. And if you like to lift up your left forearm or hand onto your thigh there, above your knee, you can. You don't need to. It's totally up to you. You can keep both hands down. And then we're going to switch again. So again, once you get your alignment, if you can, imagine you're making your mat, trying to make it longer with your feet, and you're engaging your belly, finding that length through the whole back body there. And if you like to bring your right hand or forearm up, you can. Good. And then as we bring our hands down, if we're up, we're going to step forward and get our feet right underneath us and find our way into our standing forward bend. But, you know, being really mindful of our back and mindful of the backs of your legs. So don't force anything. Bend your knees as much as you need. Let yourself use support underneath your forearms or your hands. Feel your feet, you know, hips distance apart and parallel, and just be mindful of allowing yourself to come into this pose without feeling stress anywhere, okay? So whatever kind of support you need. If you can, let your head hang, do. If not, keeping the head, back of the head in line with your spine is fine. Sometimes just that hanging of the head puts too much into the back, so just be aware. And go to those nice, easy, full, deep breaths. Nice, and then we're going to let our hands come on up to our hips, press into our feet equally as we rise up to standing, and we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead, and on our exhale, let our hands come right down together in front of our hearts. So find your way into mountain pose. If you need to walk a little bit in place, do, or rearrange anything. Make sure your feet are fairly parallel there to each other. And then as you bring your gaze on forward and out, whether you like to have your eyes opened or closed, just see if you can imagine you're looking way out beyond the wall. So you're feeling like you're looking out towards the horizon. And enjoy once you get your pelvis aligned. Once the tailbone feels like it's reaching down, you're not tucking it up under you, you're not letting your belly hang forward. There's that zip up a little bit there in the low belly. And it becomes really easy. You know, stacking yourself up, hips over ankles, shoulders over hips. Being aware of your body and space there. Imagine for a second that you're being held up by the air all around you. And then feel your hands there together. Spread your fingers a little bit. Really feel your fingers connecting your thumbs, whatever part of your palms are touching there. And then we'll release our arms right on down beside us. And inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on the exhale, bend our knees as we come on forward into standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find a nice, long, flat back, wherever you want your hands to be, on your legs, on your blocks, or on your chair. And we're going to step our right foot back and come into lunge here. Drawing our shoulders down, letting ourselves really find the whole back body here. And engage your belly a little bit. And then we'll come on into downward facing dog pose. So totally up to you where your hands are for dog. On the blocks, on the chair, on the floor. Just be mindful, remember, if you're on the blocks, they can get really kind of unsteady if they're on the highest height especially. Hug your elbows towards each other. Let yourself reach back through your tailbone and just enjoy finding that length of the spine as the elbows softly hug inward. And on the next inhale, come on out towards a plank. Now, you know, if a plank's not so good for you, come to your forearms if you'd rather. Put your knees down and do a half plank if you'd rather. If you like to bend your elbows and do little push-ups, you can. That is totally up to you. Or you can stay and just find that core strength there in your plank pose. And then we'll come on back to down dog. Reaching back again. Now, if you need to bend your knees in dog, remember, bend your knees. Let yourself enjoy the length of the spine. Good. And then we'll bring our right foot forward from here to find lunge. So if you're on the floor and you need to put your left knee down or both knees down, do. And then we'll come on back again into standing forward bend. Completing our first sun salutation, so take your time to find your forward bend where you're comfortable. And then see if you can just go to watching your breaths, all the way in and all the way out. So now really bring your focus to following the breath, starting the beginning of your inhale all the way through to the end, feeling that little space before you follow your exhale all the way through. And then feel that little space there at the end of your exhale. Letting the breath become fairly even, but don't force anything. Just let yourself really enjoy the breath. And then we'll let our knees bend, bring our hands up to our hips, press into our feet equally and rise up. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And let's unfold our arms and clasp our hands behind us. And let yourself from here, let the hands touch wherever they come to with your arms fairly long. Feel that openness across your chest. Feels really good. The shoulders are drawn back a little bit from just letting your hands go back there, of course. And then when you inhale, see if you can let your hands come a little bit off of your body, wherever they're touching. And then when you exhale, let them come back down. So inhale the hands away a little bit if you can. Don't force it. If it hurts your shoulders, don't do it. Exhale, bring them down. And then one more time, inhaling, letting the hands come away a little bit and the arms. And then release to come on back. And this time, keep your hands down, take a nice inhale. And when you exhale, bend your knees and come forward. Now stay about parallel to the floor, or maybe not even that far. You don't even have to be that far forward. Let yourself stay to where you're letting your hands stay back. You're almost like feeling like you're leading with your chest. Reach back through your tailbone, finding that flat back. Good. We're going to release our hands on down and step our left foot back and come into lunge from there. So draw your shoulders down. Let your feet press away from each other, really starting to find your whole body again here in your lunge. And we're going to make our way into downward facing dog pose. So as you step back into your dog again, it is up to you where your hands are. But feel your hands. Let your elbows hug towards each other. If you can walk your dog a little bit, then do, bending one knee at a time. Letting yourself walk a little bit in your dog. And then come back to your full dog there at center, and we're going to come on out towards that plank again. And again, planks are totally optional how you come. Onto your forearms or knees down if you'd rather. If you like push-ups, you can let your elbows come in towards your ribs. You don't even have to bend very deeply to really get into your arms there, right? And then we'll make our way back again into downward facing dog pose. And from here, the left foot comes forward to find that lunge. And again, you can always put your right knee down to get there, or both knees if you need. And then we'll come back into standing forward bend again. feet hips distance apart and parallel. And you know, I know a lot of you are fine to fold over your legs and it feels really good to hold your elbows. So if that's the case, go right ahead. If you know you need to use support, elbows above your knees or hands on the chair or forearms on the chair, hands on the blocks. Just be mindful. If you can let your head turn a little bit from side to side, do. Feeling that release in your neck. Come on back into letting the head be centered, and then just feel the face relaxing. Really let go through your jaw, all around your eyes and your mouth. And then we'll let our hands come on back up to our hips, press into our feet, rising on up. And inhale the arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And let's sit back into a little chair pose, so it doesn't have to be low. You know, your torso comes forward. Your back is still long, right? You don't want to tuck your tailbone up under you. You're actually sending your tailbone back. So you have a tilt in your pelvis here, right? So take your time, just stay there, feel your thighs a little bit, kind of press your feet down into the floor like you're pushing the floor away from you. Enjoy feeling that really sense of strength there through the legs into your hips. And then start to slowly rise on back up into your mountain pose. And we'll inhale the hands all the way up through the midline here. And on the exhale, open the arms like wings as we fold forward from the hips. Into standing forward bend. Let your next inhale lengthen out your spine. And we're going to come into down dog. So you place your hands where you like and you just walk your way on back. Spread those fingers. If you want to walk your dog, do. Or if you need to bend both your knees at the same time, do. Good. And we're going to come on out towards that plank again. And you know back bends are totally optional right now. You can stay in plank. You can come down if you want into half plank or forearm plank. Or you can come down onto your forearms into a sphinx. Or you can do a little cobra. And then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog. So again, just be mindful. Move how you need in your dog. If you need to wag your tail around, do. If you need to wiggle a little bit in dog, right? Move around a little bit. Do it. And then we'll come back out again towards that plank. And again, it is totally optional to do any kind of a back bend here. So just be mindful. Take your time. Do what feels really good for you. And then we'll make our way back again into downward facing dog. And from here, let's bring our right foot forward to find our lunge. Good. And then we'll come on back into standing forward bend with our feet right underneath us. Hips distance apart, parallel. And then just go to your breath. Easy breaths in and out. Imagine, if you can, that the breaths are coming equally in and out through your nose too. Both sides of your nose. Good. One more breath. And then we'll let our hands come up to our hips, press into our feet as we rise on up to standing, and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. So find your mountain pose. If you need to kind of sway your way into it, do. If it feels good to, go back and forth or side to side, or just letting yourself, find that centered spot where you feel very balanced between your right and your left side, and you feel balanced between the front and the back of your body. And it's very easy to stand here. Once you're aligned, just enjoy feeling the breath coming in and going out again. Nice. Nice. And then we'll go ahead and release our arms on down beside us. Shake out a little bit if you need to walk around, move around through your joints too. And I'm going to flip my chair around. If you don't have a chair, just make sure you have your blocks handy there at the front of your mat. And we're going to step our right foot back and come into warrior two. So we'll line up that right foot about parallel to the back edge of the mat. Now, you know, if you can send your heel back, that feels okay up into this right knee and your ankle and up into your hip, then you can ankle it a little bit. And then bend into that left knee and let yourself just be really mindful of lining that knee up with the center of the foot. You should be able to look down, be able to see where that knee's going. Good. And then let's just let our hands come to be in front of our chest, in front of our hearts. And now that same thing we did where we lift the elbows up and let just the tips of our middle fingers touch, like we have our hands palms down on a shelf right in front of our chest, right? Let yourself feel the hips here as you feel the feet in the floor and press the feet gently away from each other. And then all we're going to do is unfold our arms and start to turn to look out over the top of that left hand. So letting the hand come to that height where you feel like you can soften your shoulders down. You can look right out over the top of your hand. And it feels good, right? To feel that sense of really reaching out through the fingertips, feeling the feet equaling the floor here, finding the strength of your warrior two. And then we'll let our right hand come on down to our right hip. We're going to straighten our left leg out for triangle and bring that left hand down. Then you know you can use whatever you want, your chair, your leg, your block, right? You can let your hand be up on your thigh. It can come down farther towards your knee or your shin. Or, of course, you can use a block under your hand. Now, roll that right shoulder up towards the ceiling and see then if you can add that right arm. And if your arm does not want to go up there, don't do it. Keep your hand down on your hip. Feel the thighs gently engaging up towards the hips. So you're really making space in your knees. You're using all those muscles around your knees, too. We're going to bend the left knee and come back to warrior two, pressing those feet away from each other as we come. Soften your shoulders down again. And then just make loose fists with your hands and let your hands circle around in those loose fists. And then stop and go the other way. Good. And then release. Bring your arms on down. We're going to come into a wide-legged forward bend here, so getting your feet more parallel. And you know if you like your blocks, reach over and get a block or blocks if you want as you come on forward. And arrange how wide you want your feet. Bend one knee at a time if that helps you to do that, of course. So take your time. If you're like, I feel like I don't want my feet this wide, then by all means let them come closer together. If you feel like you want them wider apart, by all means do that. Just take your time. And then come on back into center. Let both your knees bend a little bit. And, you know, you can always put your elbows above your knees if that helps you to keep your back long. Or you can have your hands on the floor, your blocks. Let yourself just enjoy coming into a little bit more of a squat there. And then take your time. Hands can come back down. You can stack those blocks up, you know. If you feel like you want to get out of your hands, you can come onto your forearms on stacked blocks so that you're still fairly high. And then just find how you can really release into your breath here. If you need to adjust your stance a little bit, do. Or how you have your hands or your arms. And then just accept those breaths. Again, really following your breaths all the way in, all the way out. See if you can imagine you're relaxing in those little spaces between your breaths, that you're just, you come to the end of an inhale and you just kind of like let everything go a little deeper, and then you exhale and you do the same thing at the end of your exhale. Just let everything go a little more when you're in those little tiny spaces. more breath here. Now be really mindful as you start to rise up. If you need to bring your feet closer together first, do. And if you're dizzy when you rise up and you need to keep your feet wide for a second and get your, equilibrium back there, do it. And then when you're ready, just bringing those feet on together. Kind of move through your feet and your ankles a little bit. And we're going to come to the other side. We're going to step our left foot back and line up those heels. Get that back foot to that angle, about parallel to the back edge. If you want to send your heel back farther, do. And then find that alignment of that front knee. Just make sure you're okay there with your knee aligned. And then let yourself bring your hands together in front of your heart and feel very balanced here. Good. And then as we lift the elbows up and we let just the tips of our middle fingers touch, and we have our hands right there in front of our chest, just let yourself stay there for a second. Feel your shoulders soften so that when you do unfold your arms and you start to look out over the top of that right hand, they might want to float up a little bit higher to let your elbows melt down. You just don't want to bring your chin way up. You want to feel your chin fairly parallel. Feel the feet equal on the floor. Let yourself enjoy. Imagine you're as wide as you can possibly be, really. And then we'll bring our left hand down onto our hip. We're going to straighten that right leg out and come down with that right hand for triangle. So again, if you're using a block, by the way, it can be behind your leg, it can be in front of your leg if you're more comfortable there. It can be in front, it can be behind. And then you're extending your torso out over that front leg. Thighs are lifting up. Left shoulder can roll up towards the ceiling. If you want to add the left arm, it can come straight on up. If not, just keep your hand down. Feel your thighs lifting up towards your hips. Feel that extension of the torso out over that front leg. Good. One more breath. And then we're going to bend that right knee. We're going to come on back into Warrior Two, pressing those feet away from each other. And then from here, let your hands circle without the fist. Just let your hands be open now. Circle the hands in one direction. And then circle them in the other. And then really feel your fingers wiggling around a little bit. Soften your shoulders down when you wiggle your fingers all around. Nice. And then bring your arms on down. We're going to turn our feet more parallel. And see if you can, before you come forward, have your blocks forward if you know you're going to need them. But then come on back up and clasp your hands behind you, right? So that you have your hands back behind you. Take a peek at your feet. Make sure you're fairly parallel with your feet. And then bend your knees and come a little bit forward. Now, it's the same thing as we did when we were with our feet closer together in our standing forward bend. You don't have to go far. You can go just a little ways. You can decide you want to go, wow, I want to go like parallel to the floor because it feels good. Or you can fold all the way down and let the top of the head release towards the ground if that feels okay to you. If releasing your arms off your back wherever you are feels good, do it. If not, don't. All right? So you might be up high and it might feel good to kind of lift your hands off your back a little bit, or it might not. Be where you can. One more breath. And then we're going to release our hands on down towards blocks or the floor, and we're going to walk over towards our right. So you can use your blocks if you want, and walk over towards the right. You can hold on to your foot if you'd rather, going all the way over and holding on to the outside of your right ankle or your foot. And then come on back through center. Again, you might just want to use your blocks and go a little bit towards the front of that left foot. You might decide you want to go in towards holding on to the outside of your ankle. Good, and then come on back into center and take your time. If you want to bend a knee at a time, do. Start to think about setting yourself up here to stay with your breath. So if you know you need to get out of your hands, out of your wrists, do what you need to do. Stack blocks up if that feels better. Let your hands, if you want to, hold your ankles or bring your hands between your feet. Feeling now those easy breaths. So, such a great way to feel the ribs expanding in all directions, this pose. breath all the way in, all the way out. And then again, when you're ready to rise up, take your time. Use whatever you need to get yourself up. Adjust your stance however you need before you come, right? And then when you're ready, walk those feet on together. Move through your feet and your ankles a little bit. So I like to turn to the tops of my toes, but if you're using a chair, you might want to turn the seat around, but you do definitely want your blocks if you don't have a chair. Because we're going to come down with our hands either to the block's highest height or onto the seat of our chair. And we're going to step our right foot back into a lunge here. Just a simple lunge. Just letting yourself reach back with the heel directly behind that right foot. We're going to add a twist. We'll keep our right hand down, bring our left hand to our left hip, and roll that left shoulder up. Now try not to drop into that right side. Let yourself stay fairly level when you put your hand back there on your sacrum. And you can decide if you like to stretch the arm up or not. You can, not necessary. You can keep it down. So one more breath here. And then we're going to bring our left hand back down to the block, and we're going to come into pyramid from here. So to bring that right foot in and fully down, heel on the ground, you've got to get that foot turned out maybe 20 or 30 degrees, and you want to get yourself fully on the ground with that back foot. So as you come into pyramid now, let's really lengthen out. Fine, you have your hands up on the block, so be up fairly high with a nice long flat back if you can. Shorten your stance if you need to, remember. Let yourself be where you can feel a little release for the backs of the legs, but your thighs are lifting up towards the hips. Good. Now we're going to add that twist here. We're going to keep our right hand down, bring our left hand on up again like we did before just now, and see if you can roll that shoulder up, coming into that twist. So you're, again, trying to stay fairly level right here where your hand is. Good. One more breath. And then let yourself release. Bring your hand back down. And now, just right away, bend that left knee enough to step your right foot forward. And right away, step your left foot back into a lunge. And it'll feel like a relief, actually. So coming into your lunge on your other side first. Good. And then, keeping your left hand down, we're going to bring our right hand on up for that twist. We're going to roll that shoulder up if we can and put the hand flat there on our sacrum. Again, if you like to stretch your right arm up, you can, by all means. If you feel better to keep your hand down, let it stay down. Good. And then come on back down with your hand. You're back to your lunge. And we're going to find that pyramid pose. So as you adjust that back foot, I mean, most of us obviously have to kind of shorten that stance if we were in a long lunge. And then the back foot is fully on the floor. The heel is turned in just a little bit, so you have that slight angle there. And your thighs are lifting up towards your hips. You're going to think about really lengthening out through your torso here. So think about a nice long back. Engage your belly a little bit there. Think of reaching your tailbone back. And then bring your right hand onto your right hip. We're going to roll that shoulder up and come to that same twist, except now the legs are both straight. So you're really getting into the outside of that right leg. And of course your hamstrings. So one more breath. And then we'll bring our hand on back down again. And this time we're going to just step forward and step our feet out towards the outside edges of our mat. And you can bring your elbows above your knees there with your feet there just a little bit wider. Take a little release there, or you can squat. If you really like to squat down, you know, you could, if you like to turn your toes out a little bit and your heels in a little bit and come down with your hips. And, you know, that's not for everybody's knees and hips, but if it feels like a relief to you, go for it. Slowly make our way back to standing. So getting our feet right underneath us again so that we get hips distance apart and parallel with our feet. We're going to bend our knees, bring our hands to our hips, and rise on up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And just have a couple of breaths here in our mountain pose. So if you'd like to move around a little bit to find that centered feeling in your mountain, go right ahead. I mean, I love to sway back and forth or front to back just to get centered. And then see if you can find that really feeling of lightness in your head. So you are grounded through your feet. You are gently engaging upward a little with your thighs. But then the upper body feels like it's almost floating up there, especially your head. So if you were a mountain, right, your feet would be strongly based. Your head would be maybe up in the clouds. And then we'll go ahead and release our arms on down beside us. Shake out a little bit, move around if you need to. And let's bring our mats all the way into a wall. This is a great day to be able to do that. So let's bring our short edge of our mat into a wall. If anybody wants to come on this wall, they can. Yeah. So just bringing everything with you because we're going to stay. All right, we're going to stay here with our selves into the wall. And too close together there. So, okay, so let's come into a little tree pose first. Let's bring our left hand to the wall and let yourself, actually, let's do this. Get a block, all right? And let's bring a block to the lowest height between our feet and the wall. And you can still have your left hand on the wall. And then we're going to put our left foot up on that lowest height of the block. Left foot. Other left, Margaret. There you go. Left foot. There you go. Now, and all we're going to do, okay, now you can watch. We're going to step onto the block, lift our right foot up, and then bring it back down. Okay, this seems really easy, right? It's actually not. So, if it hurts your knee, don't do it. Okay? If you can, sometimes I like to do it and come up to point my toes so that I can actually feel trying to get my hips pretty level, and then I work back down through the foot. But I'm telling you, if you think this is nothing on your left leg, this is a lot. Now, physical therapists will have you do this like 30 times on one leg, which is a lot of work. So, you know, if you can do a couple more times, and if you like that moving through the foot, you can point the right foot when you get up on the block, and then roll back down through that right foot, right? So you can actually really, it's hard. And then finish off, because your left leg's probably talking to you. Move the block out of the way for a second. We're going to stand on the left foot and come into tree pose, either bringing that right heel to the inside of our ankle, or the right foot to the inside of our calf, or up above our knee, right? Up into the inner thigh. Feeling the foot gently coming into the inside of your leg. See if you can at first. Just bring your hands to your heart, and if you're like, yeah, no way, I'm holding the wall, then do. Hold the wall. Hold whatever you need to hold. If it feels better to get your arms up, because that definitely brings an uplift when you bring your arms overhead. You can come into that kind of wide V with your hands, letting the wall help you when you need, putting your tips of your fingers there into the wall, you know. So just be mindful. Let it feel good. One more breath. And then when you're ready, let yourself come on down. And take care of that left leg for a second. Shake it out a little bit. Bring your block, I mean, you can just shift the block back over by the outside of your right foot there. And then put the right foot on it, you know. And again, you know, this is a new leg, so it's a new day. If this one is like better than the other one, it's easier to do, then go right ahead and do that. And if you're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this at all, don't do it. You can just play a little bit with it. Let yourself play with lifting pressing into that block and really feeling your thigh, yeah? Good. And then when you're ready, you've had enough of that, come on down and take the block away, and we're going to stand on our right foot and bring our left foot in for tree. So again, you can have your toes on the floor with your heel to the inside of your ankle, right on your ankle bone kind of there. That is a little broader base of support. You can still bring your hands maybe to your heart or overhead if you want. Or you can have your foot to the inside of your leg, wherever you like. Just make sure you're not pushing your foot into the inside of your knee. Good. Find a spot to look at. If you need the wall, you use the wall. Nice. And let yourself release. Come on back down. We're going to turn right on around to left hand to the wall again. And now just bring your right foot behind you, flex the foot. Now you can just stay right there. You don't have to reach back and get hold of the top of your right foot. If you can do, or your ankle, you can. If not, don't. You can always just stay right there with the foot flexed. If you feel really good to balance here, you can bring that left arm off, up overhead and off the wall and balance. And you may decide you want to send your knee back a little bit behind you and your chest a little forward. You can balance there too if you want to. Now if you have the foot, you can push it into your hand a little bit. That's totally up to you. And then let yourself release. Come on back down. And we're going to turn around and do the other side. So again, when you bend that knee, you don't have to get the foot. I mean, you know, some of us, it doesn't work. Can't get back there and get it. It's too much on the knee, right? So you find where you can be. And if you want to balance a little bit with your hand kind of coming to the wall and then off the wall up there high, you can, or low, doesn't matter. And then again, if you like that, coming forward a little bit with your chest and back a little bit with your knee. And you don't have to have your foot to do that, right? But you can. Good. And then when you're ready, let yourself release. Come on down. Turn your back to the wall for a second and just walk your feet out enough to where you can bend your knees a little bit. They don't go beyond your toes. And let it feel good as you just lean back into the wall. And if you can, turn your palms forward and your backs of your hands to the wall so that you're kind of pressing a little bit into your hands. And now remember, you're not trying here to tuck your tailbone forward and get your back into the wall, because we'll actually do that. Look what happens. When you curl your tailbone forward, which I talk about a lot not doing, look what it does to your upper back without you doing anything else, right? It messes everything up totally. So when you let your tailbone just drop down and you have that curve in your low back, then all the curves that are natural come into your upper back too. And it feels a lot better. We're going to release and come on and walk back towards the wall. And don't do this if it bothers your shoulder right now, what I'm going to suggest, okay? If you can, step from the wall and put your right hand on the wall, but turn the fingertips to the right. Okay, so that then bring your hand a little bit higher than your shoulder. Now, if that already hurts you, by all means, don't do any more, right? If you can start to turn your body to the left, with your feet and everything are turning, like you're turning away from that hand. Now, keep pushing the hand into the wall. You can keep turning all the way towards the middle of the room if you want. The more power to you if you can go there. Don't force it. Push gently into the hand. Now, some of you might even want to turn your head to look kind of towards your left, like you're looking towards your left shoulder, and that is intense, so be mindful. And then keep pushing gently as you come back around. We're going to switch arms. So left hand comes, again, the fingertips face to the left, so you're turning your hand sideways. Again, as you get the hand a little higher than your shoulder, you start to press into the wall, and then you start to turn away from that arm. So again, as you turn away, you're still pressing. You kind of adjust where your feet are. There's no real right or wrong, right? Keep pushing into the wall. You're going to feel it right across the opening across the front of the left side of your chest, your pecs, right? But also into your arms like crazy, right? So now turning the head is just like an option. If you want to turn your head to look to the right, it increases it. To me, anyway. I think that's a very intense stretch. And then turn on back around. And now turn your back to the wall. And for a second, just bring your left arm on top of your right. Give yourself a hug, maybe even coming into your eagle wrap if you choose to. You don't have to. You can stay hugging, right? Just a release. And then we're going to just unwind and switch and go the other arm on top. So again, you can just hug, or it might feel great to come into your eagle wrap. It depends on you and your shoulders, and you know that. So be where you can, where it feels good. Good, and then we're going to come on back down, and now we're going to do what we did before, get our feet a little away from the wall, maybe 6 to 12 inches, let's say, and then bend both your knees. But now, as we come back like we were before with our backs to the wall, we're going to think about sending our hips forward. And as our hips come forward, we're going to kind of straighten our legs out. So you're feeling this openness here, right in the front of your hip. Your belly is gently engaged, but you're trying not to tuck your tailbone forward too much like we did before. Your tailbone's kind of reaching down, but your belly's engaged, right? And this is a back bend, and if it's too much, don't do it. Get back with your hips again. Maybe put your feet closer to the wall before you start. Some of you might even want to go farther from the wall before you start, right? If you want to go farther from the wall and then bend your knees and then straighten them as your hips come forward, you can bring your hands behind you, and if you want, you can just let them kind of hang with the palms forward like we did before, or put them behind you and clasp them like we've done throughout class. Or you can bring your arms up overhead and bring your hands on the wall with your thumbs kind of coming towards the wall. That even increases the back bend, right? So don't do what doesn't feel good. Take your time. Let yourself just feel that uplift through the front of the body. Feel the head into the wall there. However, you can look up a little bit if that feels good. And then when you're ready, shift your hips back to the wall. Bring your arms on down and come on forward. You can widen your stance if it feels better to do that, especially if you want to bring your elbows above your knees. If you don't want to go that low, don't. You know, if it feels like a huge relief to bring your elbows to your knees, do. Good. And some of you might even like to fold over your legs. You know, that is totally optional. If it feels really good to come into like that forward bend, except your hips are way behind you now. Obviously, you couldn't do this standing up in the center of the room because you fall over backwards. But it can kind of feel good sometimes if you have the wall there supporting you. And then we're going to bring our hands on back too, above our knees, and we're going to come on up to standing and walk back in towards the wall. Good. Move through your feet a little bit. We're going to come down and sit on our mats with our legs forward. So you know, if that sitting stuff on your mat for you is like really not the best thing, grab a blanket and sit up on a blanket. Have your blocks handy. Sit on a block. If you want to be up higher, you can sit up on a block instead of on a blanket, right? Or 2 or 3. And then we're just going to kind of send our inner thighs down a little bit. So we think about our toes and our knees facing up, right? And you're sitting up in your staff pose, which is like that giant capital letter L. Bring your hands on down beside you, palms down. And if your arms are long enough, you can press down into your palms a little bit. Might not quite reach, but feel your heels on the ground and draw them back towards you. Let yourself lengthen up. Imagine that string that goes through your spinal column from the base of your spine out through the top of your head. So again, this is the same thing we talk about all the time. If you tuck your tailbone forward, look what happens to you sitting here, right? But if you reach your tailbone down, maybe even, depending on how you're built, a tiny bit back behind you, and you engage your belly, then the back just naturally aligns. Nice. We're going to come a little bit forward. Now, the seated forward bend, I know is just for some people, like, this is just not so great, right? If coming forward is really hard for you, let your knees bend, right? Be up higher, of course, is another thing. And maybe putting support under your knees. You know, a rolled blanket feels a lot better than blocks like this, but you might be able to come a little bit more forward into your seated forward bend if you let your knees bend, because, you know, if you're tight in your hamstrings and your low back, it's a hard pose. Good. Nice. So being where you can there, letting yourself, if possible, let your head hang, but if that's too much, keep your head more in line with your spine. Good. Good. So one more breath here. And then we're going to slowly come on up. And now just lean back a little bit and bring your feet onto the floor. And you may not want to be on a block now, because we're going to be doing a little bit of boat pose. So, and also don't be, either be close enough to the wall, or if you go backwards, you can support your head with it, or far enough away where if you go backwards, you're not going to bang your head into the wall, okay? And then hold on here behind your thighs. Let yourself maybe just lean back at first a little bit where you're holding your thighs, and you can actually really kind of pull your chest a little forward, and you're holding your hands there, and that is a lot of work. And that's a boat pose. If you want to go more, you can go back enough to lift your feet up off the floor. Let yourself have your lower legs up about parallel to the floor. Flex your feet. And now you can, I like to actually clasp my hands to hold my legs here. It makes it easier for me. But you can hold separately, whatever works. And then you can decide if you feel like, oh, well, I want to get my feet higher and higher and higher. Maybe I want to, but they don't do it. But you can think about letting your legs come longer. And then you can bring them back when you need. So take your time, just play. If you want to let go of your legs, of course, by all means, do it. You can let yourself come into releasing there in your boat. Longer legs if you want, letting go or not, right? Good. And then let yourself feet come down. Open your knees out into that Baddha Konasana now. So as you come into soles of the feet together, if you want to put blocks underneath the outside of your knees or legs, do it. Coming forward, even just a little bit can be a huge release. And if you need to bring your feet to a different place, do it. They can be farther, way farther out in front of you. You can have a lot less, of a distance from the feet to the body, or a lot more distance. So sometimes it feels better to keep them way out and then come forward. Sometimes it feels better, depending on how you're built, to have your feet in closer to you. Find what feels good. Let those inner thighs release. Remember, you're trying to do the pose where you don't feel like you're trying to grip in your hips. This is a trying to release in the hips feeling, right? One more breath. And we're going to slowly let ourselves come up. And you can use your hands if you want to help your knees come back up and stretch your legs on out in front of you and shake out a little bit. And now, have your blocks right behind you here so that you can lean back onto your blocks with your forearms, right? And this is a pressing in when we try to get our shoulders really open, so that if you press into your forearms and lift your chest up, right, you get this real huge openness here through the front of the body. So So it's a variation of a fish pose. A fish pose is if you lie flat on your back on the floor and then you lift your chest up to where the back of your head, the top of your head is towards your mat, which is for a lot of people really a hard pose. A lot of you it might be easier than this because it takes the shoulders out of the picture. So I mean, if you want to come down and be on your back and then lift up to the top of your head, your shoulders aren't doing what they do in that variation we just did. So if you're like, oh, well, I want to try that, go for it. I mean, you can go just to the back of your head a little bit, and that's a lift of the chest. You don't have to go all the way to the top of the head being on the floor, which is pretty intense. Or you can go, I'm not doing any of that. But it is like you have a string attached to your sternum, and somebody just lifts you up from there. It's intense, so be careful. Well, you could go with your knees bent, Karen. It's fine. Kind of helps a little bit, actually. So when you're ready and you're like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore, come on down. Bring yourself down to the floor. Bring your right knee into your chest when you get down. And then extend your left leg down long on the floor. Feel your leg gently coming into your hands. Good, and then we're going to switch. Bring our left knee in, extend our right leg down long. Feel the left leg gently coming into your hands. Let your arms come straighter so you get that natural curve. Good, and then bring yourself feet to the floor and cross your right thigh over your left. And from there, now you're very centered. Try to get pretty centered on your hips. Let your knees just gently go a little to the right. Just a little. You may not want to go far. And then come back up to center and let the knees go over towards the left. And again, you just sort of go down only as far as you want to go. We're going to do it again. We're going to come back up with the knees to the top. And let them go over to the right. Again, how far you go is up to you. And then coming back up to the top and going over to the left. And then come on back up with the knees centered. Uncross your legs. And kind of, if you need to adjust your spine a little bit, do. And this time it'll be left thigh over right. Your woman cross-legged, really. And then let your knees go to the left a little bit. And then when you're ready, they just come on back up to the top and they go over to the right. So just give yourself time on each of those to kind of enjoy it for a second before you move back up to the top. Go ahead and do it another couple of times on your own timing. I mean, some of you might go, oh gosh, I just want to stay on one of those sides or stay longer on both of the directions, right? When you've had entirely enough, you come back to center when you want. Let your knees come into your chest when you're done. Take your time. You can let the knees go side to side. You may decide that you'd rather, stretch your legs up long or come into a different release for your hips. You might decide you'd rather do a little happy baby pose or let yourself come into a wide angle. Or, like I said, another twist might feel good. So just start to listen to your own body. What sounds like a great idea for you right now? What's going to feel good? So just being easy. Letting yourself just take your time. If you decide to stretch out for Shavasana and it doesn't feel quite right and you need to do another move or another pose,
anybody would like bolsters or blankets or anything else that sounds good. Sorry. I'm also trying to go. Inkling of a few of you, I'll come around and then if you decide you don't want a blanket, but every other day of the time you've been here, you use one, you don't have to always use it. Be mindful, take your time, and if you need a blanket, remember, for under your head. If you need a blanket for under your head, let me know. So just ease your way into feeling that support of the ground. Letting yourself just receive your breaths in and out. So you're just accepting the breath, however it needs to come in and go out. And the breath will generally start to become a little more shallow. Then wander off into a thought, and when you realize that's happening and you come back, you need to breathe in a little deeper again. And that's fine. Just let yourself accept your breaths. It gets easier and easier to return your focus back to your breath. And the body and the brain really want to follow that breath into quieter place. So just give yourself these few minutes. Trust your body to get what it needs from all we just did. Just allow yourself to completely and fully relax.
forcing, but just accept your breaths in a little deeper, in and out. Imagine letting the breath come out to all parts of your body, out to the tips of your fingers and toes. Let your fingers and toes lead you into moving if you can, so that you start with your extremities and then move on into your hands, your feet, your arms, your legs when you're ready. Stretching if you need to, bringing your knees up if it feels better to your back to bring your knees into. And you know you're welcome to roll to either your right or your left side. If that's comfortable for you, you can come into a soft fetal position. And if you have a blanket there, maybe use it as a pillow, or you can maybe use your arm. But just take your time. Let yourself kind of come back into moving the way your body naturally wants to. When you feel okay to come up to sitting, you can let yourself ease your way into sitting comfortably. Let your eyes close again if they opened on the way up, so that you can just stay inwardly focused. Really feel how you feel as you get your head to be back up there on top, and you feel your sitting bones reaching down towards the ground. Come back to your breath again once you're sitting up tall, feeling the breath coming in, feeling the belly rise and fall a little bit with your breath. And on your next exhale, letting your hands gently come together there in front of your chest, in front of your own heart. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste.
Namaste.
Happy Thursday.